Well, good morning and welcome. On behalf of Elizabeth, Anna, and Patricia, I would like to welcome you today as we celebrate the life of Craig Morris. I was not privileged enough to have met Craig in life, but I have had the wonderful honor of meeting Craig in his death. Thank you for that. Stories I share today are on behalf of his loved ones. So if I get one of the details wrong, please have grace with me and feel free to raise your hand and I will invite you to correct me. My name is Leslie McGowan and I am the pastor here at Simpson United Methodist Church. And I was invited by Elizabeth and Anna to conduct today's service. I am very grateful to have been invited. I invite you, if you have not been able to find a seat yet, they're still trying to get some more chairs out. Yes? Oh, there's a few seats up here. Wonderful. I invite you into a moment of silence to allow us all a chance to be able to stop for a moment, to gather our thoughts, and to reflect upon why we are here, to celebrate the life of this incredible, beloved man, Craig. Holy One, we give you thanks for this incredible person that was brought into all of these lives that are here, and so many more that are joining us even on the live stream from Iowa. God, it is very evident that this man had a profound effect on so many people. And we give you thanks. And we hope that we in some way are able to honor the life he lived and that of his legacy that goes forward. Amen. Dr. Craig Franklin Morris. First I should tell you, I'm not going to actually read the full obituary. I'm just going to do some of the highlights. Dr. Craig Franklin Morris, what a life he lived. Growing up on a farm in Iowa, he had a deep love for gardening and agriculture. He attended schools there, eventually graduating from Iowa State with his BS in agriculture. He went on to Kansas State, where he received both his master's degree and later his PhD in plant physiology with the specificity of wheat. He came to Pullman in 1987 to begin his postdoc at WSU and ended up staying. He was later made the director of the USDA Agricultural Research Services Western Wheat and Pulse Quality Lab. Now that is an acronym. Woo, I don't even know how to quote the acronym either. Where he remained for 32 wonderful years. He absolutely loved what he did. He was a brilliant researcher and scientist and was a leader in his field of wheat improvement and cereal chemistry, receiving the award of 5 patents and was widely published. Most recently, he was working on launching a project for a farm-to-table place. Craig was a devoted son, a dedicated father, and a loving partner. His legacy will continue with his daughters, Anna and Elizabeth. Effie, I guess, is how most know you. He is survived by his girls as well as their mother, Kay, and his loving partner, Patricia, and her two children, Lily and Max. He is also survived by his sister-in-law, Sally, numerous friends, colleagues, and employees. He considered you all equal ground. As a lifelong learner and academic to his core, Craig was often found sitting on the sofa after dinner, reading research papers all night long as his way of relaxing. In addition to his love of research, he also enjoyed music, playing his guitar and singing. He did these little clips with a group of his friends recently singing Creedence Clearwater Revival's "Have You Ever Seen the Rain?" He was a classic rock kind of guy. And he was caught on more than one occasion dancing in the kitchen while he was cooking. Effie and Anna mentioned that their dad was a great craftsman, like master craftsman. He built them tree houses, sandbox, balance beams, swings, just to name a few. And one of their most precious memories was of their science fair projects when they were kids, where he would get so involved. These science fair projects were like unbelievably outstanding compared to the other kids their age. One of his more recent projects was a pizza oven that he made for his patio. Many delicious pizza combinations came from that wood-fired oven and from a special type of wheat that he had developed. Of course, this was enjoyed with a good IPA. Craig loved to cook and make homemade pasta. Actually, anything that nourished the soul. Patricia spoke of his big project, a 57 runabout speedboat that Craig had completely rebuilt after his sailboat had been stolen, and that they would spend all the time they could, especially during COVID, on the lake in Coeur d'Alene, along with her kids, Lily and Max. They dreamt of one day building a cabin on a little piece of property that Patricia had at the lake. Craig was a wonderful friend, mentor, and teacher to Patricia's children, Max and Lily. He taught them many things, but mostly the value of hard work without the expectation of reward. Craig was never too busy for them and taught them both many lifelong lessons. Memories that were shared with me by everyone I spoke to included stories of Craig's sassy nature and of being a real prankster. He was curious of everything, but was also extraordinarily patient, humble, and kind. The whole package, as Patricia would say. Friends, cancer is a beast. It is horrible and painful. But I pray that you all take comfort in the reality that Craig is no longer in pain. And he is no longer suffering. However, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the pain and the sting of grief that you are all feeling. This sting means that Craig had profound meaning in your life. And that by experiencing this loss, you understand is huge for all and each of you. But grief is a process you must pass through. The sting will lessen with time, but your grief will remain. And that will eventually become like gold to you. It really will, because it will hold your most precious and dear memories of Craig. In Genesis chapter 15, verse 15, it reads, "As for you, you will join your ancestors in peace and be buried after a good and long life. I know that you would have all liked to have had Craig for much longer." There are a few people who would like to share a bit with you about how wonderful and significant Craig was to them. I invite Anna and Effie to come up.
Thank you to everyone gathered here today to celebrate the life of our Father. Today we gather with purpose and set forth an intention to remember, share, and connect within our grief. Grief, but also gratitude for a person we all had the honor of sharing life with. The kindness and support that we experienced during our Father's illness and directly after his passing is a testament to the source of joy in his life, which was each one of you here today. Thank you for enriching his life in countless ways.
When Effie and I recently visited our dad's office and read over his CV to write his obituary, I was reminded of all the incredible achievements of his career. It astounded me because although I already knew he had a brilliant mind, I couldn't believe what he was able to achieve in his career while also spending countless hours with my sister and I, building a palace for my childhood hamster, helping us develop A+++ science projects, more than one of which was about wheat, and arming us with certain important know-it-all phrases such as, "Ignorance is not an opinion."
It was only years later that I realized that my dad's proclivities were in fact reiterations of how to live a full life. Boredom, my dad was notorious for showing up to airports 4 hours before flights, became an experiment in imagination. Impatience, waiting for dough to rise and seeds to grow, became a mindset to instead see wonder. Force, such as turning a screw in the wrong direction, was always a choice. In simplicity, he was never more content than when he was sitting in the yard, watching the sky and watching the wind blow through the trees, was something to be cherished. From my dad, I learned that each day could be approached with giddy excitement. Every morning, without fail, I would be greeted with an enthusiastic, "Effie Bird," as if my very presence was enough to make his day. I will never forget such boundless love, and whenever I think of my dad, I am flooded with light and love and peace. It's the feeling I always had when I was with him, and one I hope to emulate.
Despite his many successes, he lived humbly. One of his greatest luxuries, he told my sister and I, was the purchase of a small wooden boat, which wasn't entirely watertight and more than once broke down in the middle of Coeur d'Alene Lake. He instead measured riches in the experiences he had with others. The items within his house are testament to those things he valued most, such as a receipt from the ramen restaurant we ate together on a trip to Toronto, the visitor badge he wore when visiting my sister's college for the first time, and my first business card.
A few years ago, when my sister and I did a large clean out of our childhood things, certain items from our trash pile kept disappearing only to reappear around the house.
Our little clay creations, sketches, and popsicle people have been given a new life as great pieces of decorative art. He cared about those things that mattered most, and in doing so, he lived a life he loved.
When writing this, I struggled with tense. Do I use is or was? In those moments, it became no longer a question of grammar, but a question of how my dad is continuing. Because it will never be a simple question of was. His spirit, his guidance, kindness, humor, and joy continue to manifest in all of us. And in this way, he is and will continue to be as long as we love and cherish his memory.
In reflecting on the grief of losing our father and the conversations with him before his passing, the writing of neurologist Oliver Sacks kept coming to mind. To close, I'd like to share a short excerpt. In the book Gratitude, Sacks states, "There will be no one like us when we are gone, but then there was no one like anyone else ever. When people die, they cannot be replaced. They leave holes that cannot be filled, for it is the fate, the genetic and neural fate of every human being to be a unique individual, to find his own path, to live his own life, to die his own death. I cannot pretend I am without fear, but my predominant feeling is one of gratitude. I have been loved and have loved. I have been given much and have given something in return. Above all, I have been a sentient being, a thinking animal on this beautiful planet, and that in itself has been an enormous privilege and adventure."
And now Patricia would like to share a few words with you.
Might have to be a little shorter. Okay. That's perfect. Thank you. So, family, friends, acquaintances, and strangers. Of all of us gathered here today, I probably knew Craig the shortest amount of time. 3 years and a handful of months. It was not enough. But in that short time, he showed me and my children a lifetime of love. And with that love, he made our lives so much better. He made us all better. In our time together, he taught us not only the small, important life skills, like teaching Lily to drive when I didn't have the courage, teaching Max to mix cement and chop wood, which I also didn't have the courage, teaching us all to make homemade pasta. He made us all better. But he also taught us the big life skills, like working hard without thought of a reward, humility, patience, tenacity, and above all, kindness. Good Iowa farm values that seem lost today in this TikTok world that our children are growing up in, and would have been lost to us had we not met Craig. Very soon after getting to know Craig, when faced with a particularly difficult decision, we would ask ourselves, what would Craig do? And after a moment of reflection, we would know the right thing to do. He loved being out on the water, as many people have mentioned today, tooling about on our refurbished 57 vintage runabout. He fixed it up. He could fix anything, you all know. We spent hours trying to decide the perfect name for the boat. We never decided. But now I think I know. We're gonna call it the Craigkin. Like Kraken? Craigkin? No. It's a really bad pun. I know. But Craig would have been one of the first who would appreciate the humor in a bad pun. He loved bad puns almost as much as I did. And his girls were the light of his life. He was so proud of all their accomplishments and the young women they had become. So, dear Craig, there'll always be a place for us, for you in our hearts, and a fresca in our fridge. And we promise to keep saving the planet one recycled can and plastic film at a time, like you taught us. Even when it seems like the task is too big for us, whether it's saving the planet or trying to go on with our lives without you, we will do it like you taught us, one small step at a time. So keep our chins up. And when you say, I'm sorry for your loss, I say to you, we all lost that day. But I also say to you, we gained from all the days before that we knew Craig. However long or short. We gained from having what a beautiful human he was in our lives. So Craig, we love you. We will always love you. Thank you.
Patricia's daughter Lily would like to share a few words.
Okay, it's like, okay, anything? Okay, sorry, I need to open it for a second. Sorry. Okay, Craig, he was like a father figure. Oh, I think, okay, so Craig was like a father figure to me, even though he wasn't actually my father, but it just felt like he was, even though he had 2 daughters. Just meant a lot to me. We used to wear matching cowboy hats in the summer. We used to sit on little lake floaties that we would pull behind our boat, but we'd put them in the yard and we would lay on them, and then eventually go get pizza and then eat the pizza together and putting pepper flakes on top of them. He would take me to the store, and my mother did not want to take me to the store because I love going to the store. So he would take me, and we would always have the best conversations. He would make me any type of food that I wanted, even when I didn't want to eat, he would make me anything I wanted, and he would put it in front of me because he knows if someone puts something in front of me, I'll eventually start eating it. I can't express how much Craig meant to me. He made me more of an empathetic person. I always had a hard time trying to figure out how to express my emotions to people, but after a long time, I finally understood. Even though at the beginning of my mom meeting Craig, I was very skeptical of Craig. It was weird that my mother met a new person that wasn't my father. But after realizing a couple months passed, he made my mother very happy. I've never seen her so excited to see him every single time that we went over to his house. She would jump for joy as Craig walked into our house, or she would go, "OMG, Craig is here, yay!" He made a huge impact on myself and my family, including my brother, which couldn't be here today. When we were at my brother's graduation, as we were walking and walked past and we ended the graduation, he said to me, "Lily, I will be there to watch you graduate and I'll be so proud." As he isn't here today, it's gonna be okay. But as soon as I graduate in 2 years, I will always think of him as I'm walking past. I loved Craig as my own father. He was always so kind to me. He's always so understanding of even when I was hangry, because after a lot of times, after many lake days, I'd be sunburnt and hangry and I'd be the meanest person ever to him. But he was always okay with it. He always understood what I needed, when I needed to get food, and he'd take me to any place I wanted to go get food. And he'd be so patient with me yelling at him to where to go, which way to turn. he made me a better person, and we all love him and we all miss him, but over time it'll start being okay, but there's never a time that we will not think of Craig. Thank you.
A dear longtime friend, Michael, will come forward and share with you now.
Okay. Well, I'm certainly going to need my reading glasses. Effie and Anna and Patricia, nothing I could say would do justice to you. You know Craig adored you beyond measure. Your dedication to him is total and beautiful. Only the love will endure. Inez and I have long debated what should be Craig's signature Bob Marley song. She thinks it's Rastaman, live up, and I can hear him singing that one. But I think it's Three Little Birds. You know, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be all right. That's my brother Craig. There's a French saying that goes, Mon ami, c'est le frère que j'ai choisi. My friend, that's the brother I got to choose. Inez always called him her bro, and Craig always called me brother man. And Hoffman of Hawaii called him brudda. It was all over. This brotherhood began many years ago when our kids were small and all of us were a lot greener. You'll allow me a few memories. In 2004, the women folk decided to hike to the top of Eagle Cap in the Wallowas. So Craig invited me and my daughters to a movie night and sleepover at their place. I brought Fiona and Olivia over to hang out with Effie and Anna. The girls were between 8 and 13 at the time. Craig was in charge of the movie. Now, I don't know what possessed him to rent The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, but that's what we all watched in varying degrees of bewilderment. His girls had called for backyard camping, and he would have camped on the roof if they had asked him. So the rest of them made it until we all went out into the backyard to camp under the stars. The rest of them made it until the morning, but I traded the damp lawn for the warm sofa sometime after midnight. And a tiny gray kitten named Chloe snuggled up under my chin for the rest of the night. During that era, our family would go skiing up at Big White in Kelowna. It was never a dull moment, tracking the big girls as they slalomed through the trees and chasing the little ones as they barreled headfirst down the slopes. When our daughters were a bit older, the Morrises stayed with us in Bern, Switzerland, Inez's hometown. And a little while later, we joined them, another year, we joined them in Viterbo and Rome during the summer. Seeing our girls stroll down those ancient streets made their dads awfully glad. Good times. Craig loved his friends, and we all love him. There were some memorable feasts at the Kincaid compound. Inevitably, Craig would join his fellow farm boys, Mark Hoffman and Keith Kincaid, in discussing things like Durham wheat or bottomland. I still don't think I know what bottomland is. I would always go commune with Chrissy and Inez and Patricia and Mary, a pretty fair trade-off if you ask me. Craig had an international reputation as a scientist, but always carried himself, as you've heard already today, with humility, even around knuckleheads who might have deserved being taken down a notch. Humility gave him a limitless fascination with the world around him, a profound sense of wonder. That curiosity ran from photography to viticulture, ice hockey to carpentry, and even to medieval history and architecture, and videography. He even had his own reggae radio show for a time. It's an overused phrase, but Craig really was a man for all seasons. For Craig, it was always about the companionship. It was always about the love. He liked cheering for the Cougars or the Seahawks, but only if it meant hanging out with his friends. He wore a blue baseball cap with LA on the front and a Syracuse cap, but he gave no hoots for either the Dodgers or the Orange. He wore those caps because his daughters went to school there. He was even a competent card player. Inez showed him how to play a game called Yas, a Swiss game, and explained all the Swiss-German terminology. Patricia's a great player and is fluent in German herself, so they were a tough team. Craig didn't care that much about winning. He just wanted to have some laughs. Most of all, he loved to mangle the German words just to make Inez giggle. As team testosterone went down in flames one more evening, he'd be shouting gibberish like, "Nein, Schnuller!" That's my brother. He loved playing his guitar finally, but it was never about showing off or being cool. It was all about friendship. He'd come over and play most of the songs in the Neil Young or Bob Dylan catalog while prancing around the living room. I can see him there with the guitar slung over his shoulder, pounding the strings as the song goes into a chorus, bouncing up and down, ecstatic. On a rooftop terrace in Viterbo, we played all the songs we knew and fantasized that the people in the square below were gathering to hear us, kind of like the fans at the Beatles' farewell concert. Of course they were. When we went camping with our girls on the Selway a few times, Craig and I took our guitars along, and I'm sure our howling scared off the bears for miles around. Late at night, we'd all lie on the beach, on the shore, and watch the stars above the trees. It was a crazy night sky, splashed with the Milky Way and slashed with meteor showers. Craig couldn't get enough of that view. It was mesmerizing. It was endless. I believe that one day I will see the face of God, and that Craig will be there too. I do not begrudge him taking his rightful place in the company of heaven. I only wish it hadn't been so soon. Catch you later, Brother Craig.
Thank you all for sharing these very meaningful stories of a wonderful life lived. Let us take just a moment to reflect on the life of this extraordinary man. As we prepare to bring this service to a close, I want to thank each and every one of you on behalf of Anna, Elizabeth, and Patricia and their extended family for coming today to celebrate the life of Craig Morris. It is very much a testament by looking around this room to what an incredible man he really was. Thank you. At the conclusion of our celebration today, one of Craig's favorite songs and the girls, Tom Petty's Wildflowers, will play. And when you came in, you were given a small beeswax candle. If not, I invite you to raise your hand and we will try and get one to you. All right. And as the music plays, I invite you to come forward to light your candle. You can lift up a silent prayer. You can lift up a memory or a parting thought. And then I invite you to place it in the sand bin here prior to leaving the space. And for all of those of you who are interested, there will be a brief reception across the hallway with some light refreshments. You are more than welcome to greet the family there after the service.
You belong among the wildflowers. You belong in a boat out at sea. Sail away, kill off the hours. You belong somewhere you feel free. Run away, find you a lover. Go away, somewhere all bright and new. I have seen no other who compares with you. You belong among the wildflowers. You belong in a boat out at sea. You belong with your love on your own. You belong somewhere you feel free. Run away, go find a lover. Run away, let your heart be your guide. You deserve the deepest of cover.